Here. So what we need very strongly is for the President to implement the Defense Production Act immediately to address the need for the testing equipment and equipment to make judgments about positive or negative. It also needs to be implemented, the Defense Production Act, we'll call it the DPA from now on, for PPE, so essential. So if we want to open our economy, and now if we want to open up our schools, we have to have the testings, we have to have the judgment, we therefore need the equipment, and we also need the PPE, the personal protective equipment. But we can talk all we want about testing, tracing, etc., but if we don't have the equipment, people are standing in line, or their cars are in line to see whether they even will qualify to be tested. And we need to know the extent of the pandemic in order for us to take the caliber of action necessary. And we need to know how communities of color are disproportionately affected by this. If we're going to have the proper testing, tracing, treating, we can do that. But you have to have the equipment. You have to have the equipment. So we're saying to the President, Mr. President, get us the equipment. The Defense Production Act require PPE, personal protective equipment. Why don't we have enough equipment to test appropriately and to be able to make judgments on those tests as to whether positive and negative, rather than waiting 7 days to find out one way or another when the result is practically obsolete one way or another because it is so late. 24, 48 hours, that should be the extent of it. There is an answer. Think big, and you can't solve the problem unless you have the tools to do so. And that's why the President has to answer for his delinquency in not implementing the Defense Production Act to produce the equipment so that people can take the test and that the test can be analyzed in a 24, 48-hour period, not wait a week or longer to find out whether they're positive or negative. And by then, they have to get tested all over again because the information is obsolete. Yes, ma'am? It's all a decision. A decision the President can make in one respect by deciding to implement the Defense Production Act, or else answer for it. Why aren't you? Why aren't you anticipating the need that we know we already have to a great extent for the equipment, for the PPE, equipment in every way?